Welcome back, everybody, to Me and Jesse podcast. My name is Mark Pavelich, away in the Grove, the big, sexy Jesse Martineau, and our special guest today, via Brazil, via Atlanta, Georgia, the one and only, my dear friend, UFC veteran, MFC veteran, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Dhiego Lima.
What's up, my man?
Obrigado.
Mr. Mark, it's pleasure to have you, man. It's a pleasure to see you, man.
Well, you just said actually something funny that Mark hasn't aged a day.
Dude, he hasn't, dude. It's been what? 15 years and he still looked the same.
Listen, I'm an old guy now, and I love what you've done with your career, and I love the direction you're going in now. And that's what really caught my eye. It's like I gravitate to things in life, and I think people need to know more about Dhiego Lima, the Dhiego Lima that came from Brazil, went to Atlanta and went to the UFC, did all these things, opened a martial arts school with his brother, but then became a pastor. And to me, that I don't know about you, but that to me personally, that's above everything else you've ever done. Me personally.
Absolutely.
Me personally. And one thing you don't know too, Dhiego, Jesse used to be a pastor as well.
Yeah,
that's amazing, man.
So I thought, oh, this is the perfect show. Like we've interviewed people from the NFL, NHL, you name it. I was so excited about this interview today because of the direction you're in, and I went to even see your brand now, Faith, that you have.
Yes, just starting.
That I will order a sweatshirt to God. I will order a sweatshirt in black, extra large for me the second this show's over.
Absolutely. Let's go, man. That's exciting. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dhiego. Again, as Mark said, we're really excited about this. But maybe since Mark queued it up, let's talk about the transition out of MMA into now, on the surface looking in, very different career path than it was before. Take us through that transition, because, a lot of us know about the UFC career, but maybe we don't know behind the scenes of what was really going on to lead to this.
Man, it's been tough, man. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I thought not being afraid and like being a man that's like fighting, getting in the cage. But man, once you get to the spiritual world and like you're helping people get better spiritually, it's a whole different ball game, man. Like the battles that come with that, it's like fighting is easy. I was like, man, I thought fighting was hard. I was like, what? That fighting's easy, man. Like this is, and it's like so many times you want to look back and you can't. You do that. You do that, God will. So it's like it's been very hard, but man, the happiest I've ever been.
Wow, well, that's cool too.
It's you get that peace. It's definitely hard, but you have that peace, like knowing, you know what, I'm not in control. I just obeyed. Like I'm riding. He's the director. He's guiding me, and it's hard to stay on that path, but I do it, and He'll give you peace.
So do you have a church now, or what do you do? Do you travel and speak? How does that work?
Yeah, right now, man, it's funny because when I retired, because I retired because God called me. Really, it's simple as that.
Right.
He was a calling. I believe in prophetic words. And who He used my wife to tell me.
Wow.
And my wife knows how that's our money maker. She knows our life. She knows if I tell him this could be
hard.
And man, and it took her really 3 months to tell me, but God, like we're a man and woman of God, we changed our lives. So it's when she told me, I was like, man, I know that's from God. And really there was no explaining, you have options. There's no, God told me to tell you that you're done fighting. And I was like, excuse me?
Wow.
How are we going to make money? God told me you're done fighting. It's like, what do you mean? And she's like, God said that was your last fight. Because a lot of people, man, they try to question God and all this. And when you live your life with God, when God is speaking.
Yeah,
and for me, I was like, man, I called Sean Shelby 2 hours later. Hey, man, I'm retired. He's like, you got a fight schedule? I was like, man, I'm retiring. God called me. He's like, what do you mean, man? You just re-signed your full fight deal. My coaches, everybody, they're like, what do you mean, man? I was like, God called me. Like, I know it's from God. There's no, with God is a yes or no. There's no middle.
Yeah, that's right. You could pretend it's something else, but it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? I did it. And I went full in, man. I was like, God, what do you want from me? And I thought he was going to be, I'm going to preach around the world. I'm going to, maybe have a church for them, man. Soon as that happened, man, my life started going downhill. Boom. Everything downhill. Financial. Everything downhill, man. But it was a process, He put me in the desert for literally 2.5, close to 3 years. Yeah. A desert everywhere in my life. But then now, look at this opportunity. This is my first time speaking about it in a podcast.
I know that.
That's cool.
People are like, why don't you talk about it? I was like, because God isn't. I'm not ready yet. God will tell me when it's ready to share it with the world. And it's a blessing to be Mark, because Mark is like started my career.
That's
exciting.
And it's funny too that people didn't know this too. Was funny, Dhiego, because my whole life I've been touched by God, my entire life. See, people always say that they said, when did you find God? And I said, I never found God. He found me. And people were like, what do you mean by that, Mark? I go, I tried everything in my life since I was a little kid to push God away from me. And he kept doing this to me. I swear to God, like this, like, come back. and he said, how much do I have to show you in life, Mark? What do I have to do to show you? I've given you everything. What do I have to show you? I stopped you from addiction when you were a kid. I stopped you from this when you were a mid-adult. I stopped you from all these stupid things that you were doing in your life, all these addictions that you were trying to put in your life. And then I says, why don't you want to ever talk about me either? Because I've given you all these things. And it was funny because in the MMA world, a lot of my pastors used to come to the shows, and but I never talked about God openly ever until about 7-8 years ago. But I was like, in the MMA world, I thought I needed to be the devil to survive in that world. You know what I mean? Yep. I couldn't be soft. I couldn't talk about God because people were like, oh, then all of a sudden that wasn't going to work. So I was an absolute lunatic in the MMA world. The second I stopped, the day after, when I was in church, my pastor came to me. He hugged me, and I said, "Now I'm going to talk about God for the rest of my life, right? Because I'm comfortable talking about it. I'm comfortable talking about MMA. I'm comfortable talking about God, and I'm comfortable talking about family and friends. Outside of that, I'm not so comfortable about talking about things. You know what I mean? Like, those are things I really know about. So when I saw you become a pastor, it made me so happy. And then when I saw your brand Faith, I thought, even better, because that's a great word, but we don't use it enough, right? Because we're trying to scare people away from God, but why not use the word faith? I mean, to have faith in things, and then you'll find God on your own time.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, I think let's take it from the sports perspective and stuff too. Like, how did you feel? You said you and your wife are men and women of God, but during that time of the fighting career, how did you mix faith and MMA together?
There we go. Sorry.
That's okay. No worries. No worries.
No, absolutely, man. And it's crazy because I started printing my own shirt for the gym, and then I was like, all I'm doing is MMA stuff, the gym stuff, and then one day I had an extra room in my gym. And all of a sudden, like I saw a bunch of shelves. I saw shirts everywhere, and I was like, "This is gonna be big." Like, God just gave me a vision of it. And then all of a sudden, I just hear a voice like, "Do it for me, do it for me." And then I just get all these ideas of making shirts with faith on it or not. And then I start, man, and all of a sudden, like, things just start happening, and then I just got a huge printer, man. Somebody blessed me with a printer for Christmas. And I'm like, wait, what? So it's like, man, so everything starts going the right way. And it's like, and it's funny because people are like, man, you're making so much money and everything. You're doing everything. But I'm like, man, I'm doing nothing. It's like, I'm not making anything. I'm just blessing people. And just to see people walking with like, man, it's amazing. You know, it's like, man, God is amazing.
Do you see yourself having your own church one day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because God already showed, you know, that's
Yeah.
where, but there's a process to get there.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
know,
of course.
even with sharing, you know, like, because I see everybody at the gym. I don't down Jesus down their throat. I don't do anything,
Of course,
man.
of
These
course.
guys, they look at me and they're like, man, coach, like, why are you different? You know, like they see,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're cussing, you know, these guys, they cuss. If I'm there, they cuss. They're like, coach, I'm sorry. I was like, man, like that, you gotta be that, you gotta know that God is watching you, you know, but you know, they see me as as that reference, you know, and it's truly amazing, you know, and I show it in my life, man. It's not the way I speak, you know, I'm not, it's nothing. They just see it in my life and they're like, man, this guy's different. Like how much he has changed, man. It's like going from partying after fights to like, hey, go pray after, you know. It's like they're like, what? Like it's change, man. If there's no change, it's like,
Was there a big conversion moment where everything kind of hit you, or was it a slow process over time?
Man, there was a huge one, man. I was at church one day and there was this guy visiting, you know, and he was a prophet. And you know, I grew up in church. My dad is a pastor. I grew up, and then I thought I was a Christian my whole life. You know, I said, no, I'm a Christian and all that. And I'm like, but you know, what's a Christian if you don't know Jesus? It's like, and then this guy one day, man, he's at church and he gives me a prophetic word, and he said some things about my life that it was only between me and God, man.
Yeah.
And really, like that was like God using this man to pretty much tell me my whole life. And I was like, what have I been doing? And then the blindfolds got off. I was like, I gotta change. Like I'm nowhere near like God is this real, how real God is. And that was it, man. After that day, you know, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna change my life. I truly gave my life to Jesus that day, and then it started, you know, and it started.
Yeah. And once that ball starts rolling, you never know where it's gonna take you, because
Never
the path
man.
that
And
you
then,
get put on,
and you know, and that was in the UFC. I was still in the UFC. That's when my career went downhill again. I made it back from the tough finale. You know, a redemption, man. Redemption. That was like in my life. Like I was thinking about giving up because I had won the Titan FC championship, and then I lost it to Jason Jackson. And then I was like, man, it's over for me. Like it's over. Like that. For me to win a streak again and do all that, I was like, I was tired. But deep inside, God was like, I'm still making something happen in your career. And I was like, man, like I just went in God's voice, man. I was like, you know what? I believe God has something. And next thing you know, here's a show called Redemption. And if you're coming off a loss, it's better. I'm like, what? And then I get in, you know, I lose again. I'm like, God, you brought me back to keep losing. And then he was all to teach me lessons, man, financial lessons. Like, hey, I got you. And then my career starts going up. I get on a 3-fight win streak, and I'm like, all right, perfect, you know. I lose to Bilal Muhammad, and then I'm like, man.
In a decision, current UFC champ.
Current UFC champ.
Yeah.
And then here comes Matt Brown. I'm doing great. I get knocked out. I'm like, man. But then I still believe. And I'm like, you know what? I get another fight scheduled. You know, in this though, man, my life is changing completely, man. Like it's like, whoa, getting clean. You know, it's clean, man. Man, I can't do this anymore. You know, it's like just getting clean. And then after that Matt Brown fight, I'm like, all right, now we're gonna go. Now we're gonna be good. I'm in my prime now, 33 years old. And then that's when my wife comes and she's like, hey, you're done.
Wow.
And I'm like, but I'm in my prime. Like I just resigned, you know, like.
Yeah, people obviously question that when that happens. How do you explain it to everyone else? Like obviously your coaches and stuff, but like everyone's like, what, dude, what's going on?
Man, they still to this day, I've never really shared the testimony.
Yeah.
I have when I preach in the Brazilian churches and all that, I have said parts of it, I use it, but they don't really know the whole story. They're like, because the first thing you hear, man, it's like, how do you know it's from God? It's like, man, you live your life with God. There's no miscommunication. You know, all you see is people, man, I think I'm hearing the word of God. I think there's no I think with God.
Yeah.
Like if you think about God, that means your life, there's a part in your life where you need to change. Like there's something somewhere that's stopping you from hearing God. And and for me, it was clear. I was like, man, I got to give it up. It was like, there's nowhere to run, nowhere to run.
They must have thought, when you think about it, though, when you call someone like Sean Shelby and you tell them after signing a 4-fight deal, they must honestly think, and I don't think you're crazy at all. I think I do understand it 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
But he must have said to you, are you sure? Because I don't think God minds if you fight or not. You know what I mean? Like he must have said that to you.
Exactly.
He must have said something like that. Like I couldn't even imagine the conversation, because I know Sean, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine the conversation with him answering the phone going, "What do you mean?" Like
man,
what?
My manager, everybody.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
But I had to go in the desert for 3 years because there's no going back. Like when you do something for God, that's why people, man, are you ever coming back? I was like, man, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, when God speaks, God speaks, So I knew there was never going any back.
Yeah.
But I had to go to those tests, man. I had to go to the trials. That's why financially it's been the hardest 3 years of my life because of that. It's like, are you gonna go back? Are you gonna look at the money? Are you gonna let me provide for you? And man, and not one day I've had everything. And my house is expensive, man. I have expensive house, I have expensive car. And the gym, the gym was just the gym. I have a big gym, but people don't understand there's a lot that goes to it.
Yeah.
Is the gym now, do you have a lot of students right now? I would think
yes, man. We got over 300 students.
Oh, that's the number.
So people look at that, they're like, man, you live a great life. I'm like, man.
Yeah.
Because God is the one that turns it on and off. And if he doesn't want you to make money at the time, you're not going to.
Talk about the desert part, because the desert part, I think, if people that don't understand, like in Christian terminology, it's kind of that time, the valley of the shadow of death, essentially, that valley that you might find yourself in that's really tough. Talk about that desert time for you, because I think a lot of people, and we've talked to so many guests on the show too, where they go through that dry spell, let's say, to put it mildly, but they go through that time and they don't know what to do. They get lost and they get further depressed, maybe, or maybe making some wrong decisions.
Jesse, make sure you let them know this is the first time in the history of this show that we've ever brought up God first, and other guests on the show have brought up God on their own.
Yeah.
So we've never brought that up. We've never talked about it. Today was the first day we ever did. Like we brought it up first.
Yeah.
But other times on the show, people you would never think of, Dhiego. I mean, a lot of people, like famous people, they bring it up. And then we go, okay, we're going to go that direction now. But we were talking about something else, but they were talking about how, they also said it was the first time ever on this show that they brought up God publicly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. And we didn't even imply to bring that up.
No.
But that's what happens. That's what happens, because you see in society now, people, there's a section of people now that will talk about God, and then there's another section that tell you you're an absolute lunatic talking about God.
Right.
And what I've noticed is that I don't partake in any of that. Like even on Twitter or wherever else, people tell me, I have 100 atheists following me on Twitter telling me, and I tell them all the time, I don't talk about God, argue with God. I don't I don't do that with people. I don't have to sit and prove to you there's a God.
Exactly.
I won't do it. But if you hang out with me for one day, you would understand there was one. That's all.
That is Mark, and that's my life, man. That's my life. If you don't want, I'm gonna respect you. Just know, like I don't argue with. I show it in my life. They're like, man, why are you like? It's God.
Yeah.
They're like, it's God. You either accept it or not. That's amazing, man. Because it is. Because that's why there's no respect anymore. It's like people trying to argue with people to prove. It's man, go prove it with your life, man.
Yeah.
You want to argue about somebody online, but then here you go, you're doing all the same thing they're doing. How are they going to change?
Yeah. Right.
It's like, bro, show it with your life, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a great point. And today, like you see, like with the way the world is going, it seems like spirituality is actually becoming a back to the forefront. It's actually like seems like more and more people are embracing the idea that there is something else out there.
Right. Yes.
And so like
even our guy Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
You see that was awesome, man.
Joe is arguably, and I know Joe, we get along good now.
Yeah.
There was a time when we didn't. But there's a part where what he said recently is that someone brought up on his show the other day, and they brought up Jesus, and he said, I'm starting to think there could have been a guy named Jesus. And he said, you know, it's funny because you have to look at Joe Rogan too, for example, what he's been blessed with in his life.
Yep.
Joe is extremely intelligent, but you're not $100 million intelligent. You know what I'm saying? So when you look around, see, a lot of people go to faith because it's bad. But you know what's funny? 15 years ago, I started going back to church because everything was so good. Wow. And I thought to myself, and I didn't go to church because it was bad. I went back to church because I'm like, this is what I told you at the beginning. I never found God. He found me. He's always been pulling me and saying, what's wrong with you? Like, I've given you everything. And if you look around my life, I'm not educated. I don't have a college degree, but you look around my life, you go, what did this guy ever do to get all this stuff? And listen, I might have worked hard, but a lot of people work hard, Dhiego.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. A lot of people work really hard.
They do.
And they don't have what God's given me. I'm in church sometimes, and I sit in the front row. My whole life in school, I was in the back row. My whole life, I sat in the back. But I was the cool guy in school. Yeah, I'm going to sit in the back. In church, I sit in the very front row, in the front seat number 1. And you know what? Sometimes I'm sitting there in church, and I'm they're singing a song, and I'm crying. You know, crying. Yeah. And I'm not a crier. I never.
Yeah. Only God.
How does that happen? And I'm crying, and the person next to me goes, "Are you okay, Mark?" And I go, I'm so okay that I'm crying. Like I'm trying to explain to you. I see people in the church that are in pain. And I say to God, why are you doing this to me? Like, why are you doing this for me? Do it for them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel guilty, but I feel sad because the same people I see every week, they're in sadness, they're in pain. And sometimes I literally start in church, I start crying. Like, it's crazy. But my whole life, I found out now I'm a grandfather for the first time. And so now I have my grandson. So I cried when I seen my grandson, but it's a weird thing in my life where I go to church and I cry. It's crazy, but I go anywhere else, nothing.
Nothing. Wow. Nothing. That's how it is.
Yeah. How does that happen?
What do you?
It's not my imagination.
Right.
It's not my. I didn't make this up. And like I told people all the time, I don't tell people to go to God. My friends tell me all the time. You know, Mark, I got a new truck. I got a new house. I got this. I'm still not happy. And they keep telling me the list of things, and I go like this every time I go. And don't say a word. The next Sunday, they're standing next to me in church.
That's amazing.
I don't know.
That's awesome.
So I don't tell no one to go to church, but you have all these things in your life, but you're still not happy. So there can only be one other reason. You got everything else. The only thing you don't have is this one thing. But now you finally get it. You'll see. You'll never be alone again.
That's
ever,
it.
Ever.
What do you like to speak about mostly? What do you feel like God's put on your heart? Like, what's your call and mission that you feel that he told you?
Mine?
Yes.
Meant to lead people spiritually, you know, lead people spiritually, really. And these guys, man, it's amazing, man. Like, the guys now, when they train, man, like, these guys don't call me to go to their fights anymore. They call me the coach. When I get there, can you please pray for me? Like, they call me. They're like, if I can't make it, like, coach, can you please pray for me after the fight? After practice, man, one of the guys, they'll bring out their phone. Hey, guys, we're going to read this verse today. They'll share a verse, and then they pray after practice. Wow. So it's like, wow, man, you see the difference, you know, because in my eyes, what do we want to see? Oh, it's all material. Where's the growth? The gym has got to grow and all that. But then you look at these guys' lives, man, everyone's changing spiritually. Everyone's getting closer to God. Everyone's asking questions now about God. And I'm like, man, God is truly amazing. Like these guys, because you go to a gym, man, that's your out. That's
Yeah.
your,
Right.
you want to
Yeah.
punch everything
Yeah,
out. You
yeah.
want to punch a bag, all
Yeah.
the anger. And then, man, now these people, they walk into my gym, they're like, man, there's something different here. Like the peace, like the family
Yeah.
environment. I was like, God is in this place,
Yeah.
What
And
Yeah.
what number of student do you need to have to make real money in your school?
my school, over 500.
500. So
Yes.
this is what we have to do, because everybody, it's in Gwinnett,
Yes.
Gwinnett,
County.
which is an outskirt of Atlanta. Like it's
Yep.
a suburb, everybody. It's ATT Team Lima.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, like, I couldn't even imagine. I think it should be like McDonald's drive-through with you and your brother there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like
Yep.
I would like an arm bar. I would like to learn how to
Right,
punch,
yeah.
kick. I would like, I mean, it's crazy, man.
Uh,
There's no school. And I'm pretty sure Jucao must stop by once in a while, right?
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Of course, right? So he's
Mhm.
been on our show and he was fantastic.
Yep.
He was fantastic. And you want to talk about something in life, and this has been bugging me, and this is a true thing that happens. My friends have other businesses, and and then I share all their stuff on Instagram, like I
Yep.
share their stuff. It's funny. I tagged Jucao in the other day, you being on the show,
Uh-huh.
the first guy to share it on his story, saying Diego's on the Me and Jesse podcast.
Yeah.
That's who Jucao is. You know what I
That's what, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just so people want to know, because a lot of friends, they don't do that, right? They
Mhm.
they don't want everybody stealing their thunder. But he shared, when I tagged him in on it, he's like, "Oh, Mark, I'm so excited," and
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, man, awesome guy.
Mhm.
So you said you grew up as a pastor's kid. Now anyone
Yes.
that
Oh, yeah.
anyone in the
Yep.
church world knows the pastor's kids, and usually
Yeah.
a fair percentage of them have had some struggles. How was it for
Yep.
you?
Same here, man.
Yeah.
Same here. And it was on mine. It was, the pressure was so much that when I turned 18, man, I was like, I'm done. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
outta here. Yeah.
Try out the world. I'm
Yeah.
going. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going. So for me, it was tough. But that's where all my testimonies came in. That's when I tried pretty much everything in this world you can think of, and.
Mhm.
Later I tried to clean up myself. I couldn't do it, man. And then when I gave it to God, it's like, wait, we can actually get clean with God. It's
Yeah,
like, wait,
yeah,
what? And he does it, man. He does it. It's like, just got to turn to him, and man, it's amazing.
So let's say, like, usually we all have struggles, but like
Mhm.
in that time, like what was the struggle that kept haunting you? Let's say the one that the kind of like the Apostle Paul, like the thorn in the side kind of thing. What was that for you?
Man, mine was drinking and smoking weed.
Mm.
Because I had a routine on Sundays, go to church, get home, get my beers, get everything, go drink and watch football,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the church that my brother went to was a Brazilian church. It was about 45 minutes from here. And he was like, but man, when you went into that church, you felt God. You were like,
Yeah.
man, this is real. Like, what? My church was very big that I used to go to. So you just go in and out, and,
Right.
it was a normal thing, But man, getting out of that routine to just spend the day at church instead and give that up, give up football, give up that, it was like, man, but I just started giving it to God. And then next thing you know, man, I'm like, you know what? I don't need this, It's a process,
Yes.
People don't understand, like, you're not just going to stop drinking. You're not just going to stop smoking. And then
Right.
nowadays is, oh, I can do it. God, it's like, listen, it's not like that, because I was on that side too.
Mhm.
So it's like, I always use it. You can't bull crap me.
Yeah.
I've been there.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
coach,
Yeah.
I'm too weak. I can't do this. I need this.
Yeah.
It's like, no. You just not that deep yet. You know, like you
That's
get
right.
there, you're just not there yet. You know, it's
Correct.
a process. People don't understand that it's a process. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah. Once you tag yourself, everybody thinks, "Oh, you're perfect right away."
No,
You're
No,
no,
I
perfect.
think
no,
that, like,
man.
you know,
It
we
was
have
a
like,
process, you know.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
It
this.
was like, man, it's a process. You know what?
Yes.
I'm gonna stop slowly, and next thing you know, God just put that peace in your heart. It's like, I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need to go to a party to have fun. I don't need to drink to have fun. And then all that is just finding your peace in God, man. But people don't want to go through that process because it's hard, man.
That's
It's
the thing.
hard.
Like, you
Like,
know, I think that people say, like, you know, they expect, like, you know, the heavens to open up and the angels to come down and everything's perfect from
No,
now on.
no.
But a lot of the times, what I've heard
It's
is
true.
that, like, and you know, and in my own experience too, is actually gets harder for a bit. Like,
It gets harder.
it gets harder, and that's what people don't really understand. And it's not that it's just like about getting harder; it's about letting go of how we used to use our own strength to do everything,
You do, man.
and then
Yes.
switching it around. So, you know, I think of people that
Switching it up.
struggle, especially with addiction, let's say, it's like, you know,
Yep.
waiting for, you know, I think we've created a culture to, like, I call it the Big Mac generation, where if it's not
Yeah.
ready in 5 minutes and it's cheap and it's
Yeah.
fast,
the
I'm
microwave,
upset. Yeah, I'm upset.
Oh, my
And
God,
that's
yeah.
not how.
Microwave blessing.
Yeah,
man.
microwave blessings.
I
Exactly.
microwave blessing. Let me go. Let me put it in the microwave. My blessing is done. you
That's
know?
awesome. That's
I
so
love
good.
that.
I'm using that one now.
I'm
But
I'm writing that down. Hold
But
on.
but you know, that's the thing though, because that's what people think, and then they think, well, I tried the God thing. I tried that.
Yes.
And you know, maybe they went to church for a couple days, and that's the kind of thing. But until there's like an actual connection, because that's what people don't understand. There can actually be a relationship.
Yes.
What's your relationship like
Mhm.
in the spirit side of it?
Yes, man. Absolutely. And that's why, man, that's why I was in the desert for 3 years, because we were talking about it.
Yeah.
We kind of got off.
Yeah.
But really, man, the desert is knowing that all you need is God, man. All you need is God. Man, I'm telling you, like, for me to have paid my bills in these past 2 years,
Yeah.
to have the type of, like, because, you know, I'm coming from a UFC
Yeah.
contract
Correct.
to a gym that's not making it yet. Dude, it's a miracle, man. Things come. It's a miracle, and I was like, wow. Like, it's learning that, man. All you need is God, man.
Yeah.
You have God, everything will work. A blessing from here. Somebody out of nowhere, man. I'm gonna pay this for you. Hey, man, here's a bonus. I'm like, and then it's just God, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
God.
And that's the thing
What did
too.
your
Like,
brother say? What did your brother say? What did Douglas say when you said, I'm done fighting right now? And he must have said, well, you're on a roll a little bit still here.
He
So-
knew.
Yeah,
he knew, eh?
He knew, because, you know, Douglas is very close to God too, man.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
God, he brought me back. Like, God used him to bring me back. So
Yeah.
I went
Yeah,
back, you know, went to church because of him. But he understood right away. He's like, you ready? Because, you know, it's a tough ride, you know. But
compare
he
that.
was happy. You
Well,
know?
maybe compare that for us between training for a fight
Mhm.
to training in the desert.
Compare it, man. The toughest thing is letting go.
Yeah.
You know, it's like knowing that you're nothing. Like, your strength is nothing, man.
Yeah, that's right.
God is the one. So really, the desert is for you to understand that really you're a piece of dirt. That's what you are.
Dust.
You
Yeah.
are dirt.
Yeah.
And man, and when you realize that, you're like, man, God is everything. I am nothing. Like, all my strength is from God. He's the one that makes it happen. He's the one that opens door. He closes door. If he wants me to have money one day, he will let me. But like, he's in control 100%, man. And, and that's what I understand. And that's the thing with fighting is you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go, you know, because there was time that I was so spiritual. I was like, man, I got this. Like, I got this. I ready to. I'm late. I got lazy at times, man. I was so spiritually strong that I got lazy.
Right.
And God is like, boy, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna open doors. But if you don't train, if you don't step in there and fight, you're gonna get your butt whipped.
Because there is an aspect of us, because he gives us a body and abilities to do something with. And that's the thing too, is like, you still have to do something. It's not like you just sit back and wait for everything to happen. Like, that's a great picture,
man.
because I find that, especially with, like, I worked with a lot of young adults, and that's always the thing. Like, I'm so strong, I can do anything, but it's like, whoa, you actually missed the point, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like no, man. You still got to do your part, and that's why people think Christianity is. Christ already did it for me. I don't have to do anything. It's like no, man. Life goes on, man. This world is tough. You still got to work. You still got to do everything. But no, you're not doing it alone, man. And what I realize people don't realize. Listen, the Bible doesn't promise you anything material.
Right.
It does not, man. Man, Christianity is about making a heaven, man. It's like it's fighting that fight with perseverance until Jesus comes back or he decides to take you away.
Yeah.
You know, it's eternal life, man. Like I'm not gonna promise you anything. Life is gonna be harder because material, you work, you get your material things, you know. He blesses you. He opens door. There's places that you're not supposed to be that he'll create situation to get you out. And that's what people don't understand. That's the blessing of God, man. It's like, but at the end of the day, it's eternal life.
Don't you think we find out as you go along, though, as being Christian, that we don't need certain things anymore? Like you like there's a shine to things. There's a shine, right? And we all get caught up in the shine. We want to have all this shine. But then we get to the point where we're like my wife, as you know my wife, you remember my wife. She's extremely spiritual. She has been since the second I met her. And she's always been like that. You'll never hear her criticize anybody. You'll never hear her say to anybody like a bad word or never. And the crazy part is I'm the one that always bought her things. You know what I mean? Like, and then she said to me one day, she said, you know, you don't ever have to buy me anything. I don't want nothing. And I was like, what do you mean? Don't you want nice shoes like with the red things on the bottom and all this stuff? And she's like, I like it, Mark, but I don't need anything. So just so you know, moving forward, it's not necessary. That's not what I want to make sure the kids are good. You're good. You know, this is her concern in life. And then I started to look and I was like, that's a different mindset. You know, that's a totally different mindset. And that's what I at my age now, I wish I would have learned it 20 years ago. But as I get older, I start to realize, you know, if I can have coffee with Jesse for an hour and a half one day, I feel like I'm a millionaire. You know what I mean? Because I'm sitting having coffee with my friend, and that makes me feel rich.
That's awesome.
I buy a new car. I never feel rich. That costs money. That costs money. I go for lunch with you, Dhiego, and we have lunch for 2 hours in a Brazilian restaurant. I'm like, to me, that is like, I feel rich. I feel like,
isn't that awesome?
Yeah,
it's all like hanging out with Christians, man. It's like, wait, you're going through this and you're this happy. That's perfect. It's just talking about.
Can you imagine? Right?
Testimonies, man. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's true. Right. And then you say all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a second, your perspective of what being rich really is, you know, because I see a lot of my friends, no disrespect to any of them, but 90% of them are all divorced. Maybe more. Yeah. And I'm still with the same person I was with 37 years ago. And people ask all the time, you know, what's the secret? And I say, well, there's this and this and this, but there's a big element of spirituality between me and my wife that has brought us through the valleys. You know what I mean? And that's what people don't understand. They go, oh, you guys don't look so happy. And I'm like, yeah, but things happen in life, financially, this, that, you know. Listen, when we stopped the MFC, it was very similar to signing a 4-fight deal like you did. I didn't have to. I still re-signed my contract with Access TV. I re-signed my contract with TSN. Everything, and I still wanted to stop. I was like, this is not me anymore. I'm not this person. I'm not. I don't want to do this no more. And people are like, Mark, have you lost your mind? And I'm like, no. I was out to dinner with a friend of mine. And he said, Mark, I'm going to start a business for you. I go, what's the business? He said, you're going to start a marketing company. I said, what's that? He goes, you know, like you do for the MFC, you know, like you promote, you do this. This is a true story. I stopped the MFC, no clue what I'm going to do. I saw my wife. She looked sad at the end of the show. We sold out the show. We make money, whatever. That doesn't matter anymore. The pain of it all. And then all of a sudden, I look at my wife, I whisper in her ear, and I said, I'm not doing this no more. And she had one tear go down her eye. The next day I have dinner with a friend of mine. He owns the biggest glass company. This is a true story. Biggest glass company in Western Canada. He says, Mark, you're going to start a marketing company. I go, what's that? The next day, I'm driving my car. He calls me, says, come to my office. I come to the office. Everybody's sitting around the table. He says, Mark, you're going to be our marketing director. I'm like, what's the name of your company, Mark? I go, I don't have a name of it.
I don't even have.
Listen to me. You want to see how God works? Now, I'm so smart. I never even went to school. I never even went to college. I never went to university. Nothing. That day, I signed a contract with the biggest glass company in Western Canada. By the end of the week, I had $800,000 in contracts with different businesses because I signed that contract. And I went in my backyard. I looked up the guy and I said, I don't understand it. So what is it? Because I'm so smart? No, man. There's a lot of smarter people than me. Trust me. And I know that. And I'm in my backyard. I look up and I'm like, I don't even know what to say. Like besides thank you. But
yeah,
I'm like,
right. That's it. Yeah.
But it's like
amazing.
These are true stories.
Yeah.
I've never told that story to anybody before. But I'm trying to tell you, this is the real life that people don't understand. And it doesn't happen when you want it to happen. You think people go, Mark, you pray? I pray every day. I've been praying since I've been a child, And they say, what do you pray about? And my praying is never routine. I don't routine. I don't just like, I do Our Father in heaven, and then I'm done. No, it's never like that with me. It's it's different every night with the Our Father. And I say to him all the time, like, wow, what you've done in my life. And what I do? I do pray for all my friends every night. And I want them to feel the same happiness and the same joy that I've felt in my life because of that. That's all I care about now. And I think that as you get older, you start thinking of others even more than you already have. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Dhiego, again, thanks so much for joining us tonight. But maybe
worries.
let's leave people with maybe an encouraging word that you would, maybe even prophetically, see what maybe give people watching tonight some sort of message that you feel is appropriate for this time and season we're in.
Man, really, it comes down to seek the kingdom of God first. It's Matthew 6:33. Seek God first, man. Seek God first. It's really that simple. But seek God for who He is.
Yeah.
We have got to stop seeking God for our microwave blessings.
Yeah.
It's never going to work, man.
No.
It's never going to work. What He wants is a relationship.
Yes.
Go through the battles with God. When you do decide to change, it's going to be even harder. It is, man. It is.
Tough.
The devil doesn't want you to have a relationship with God.
No.
He doesn't. So your wants, your things for this world is going to get even stronger. But when you put God first, you'll be able to be like, you know what? I'm okay. I'll pass. And things are just going to start, man. You're going to start having peace and things that you're like, wait, I'm going through this?
Yeah.
Man, it's awesome,
Yeah.
And that's the thing, man. Take the process of getting holy. If there's areas in your life that oh no, Jesus already paid it for me, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
If your time comes up, man, you're not going anywhere near God. I'll tell you that right now, and that's Bible. If you know your life is not right, I'm just waiting on God. God's waiting on you, my friend. Get your life right. Stop trying to do this. Say, I'm good. God's got me. Show it with your life. Show it with your life.
Have you noticed lately? I know lately when the college football was just on, and we saw all these college football teams play, and we saw them all with prayer, and we started to see the entire field being prayed upon, and we started to see it, and I was like, wow. This is now the tide's turning again. People are starting to realize, wait a second here, this is okay. And you see these college students praising God, it's praising Jesus, and you're like, wow, this is something different now, you know, and they're like, the person's asking them a question and they don't want to talk about the question. They want to talk about God.
They want to talk about God.
I was like, are you watching this, everybody? This isn't some scam. This isn't some gimmick. This has been around since all of us started. You know what I mean? This is not the Rubik's Cube. This is not, you know, this has been around since the beginning of time. And you want to keep on trying to pretend there isn't one. When even Joe Rogan, one of the biggest atheists of all time, just recently said, oh, I think there could be a Jesus.
There could be. There is, man. There is. He's as real as it gets. You know? He's as real as it gets.
Yeah, he's as real as it
gets. Man, because really, like when you're out there partying and all that, you're like, man, this is no. Like I've tasted everything from this world, man.
Yes,
and I decided to give it all out for
Yeah.
Jesus. Because man, it's better on this side.
Yeah.
You know,
that's right.
With your eyes, it's not. You look, you're like, man, this guy's going through all this. Like, no, it's better on this side, man. It's better on this side.
And for people in the Atlanta area, get out to ATT, get out to the Lima's gym. We got to get that number to 500.
We got to get it to 500, man. This is the year.
All skill levels can come? All skill levels?
All skill levels, man.
Yeah,
all
man.
skill levels. We got fundamentals. We got a little bit of everything. And, you know, go on my website, Team Lima Christian Store. That's our faith-based, man. Tag it. Go get you some hoodies. Go get you some shirts.
I will be wearing that hoodie being shipped to Canada, right?
There we go. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Extra large. And I'm gonna wear my faith hoodie, and everybody's gonna ask me where I got it. So.
There you go. Yeah. See, perfect.
Well, Dhiego, we want to thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight and sharing your story. And like you said, for the first time, really diving into the spiritual side of it. I'm sure that every time people talk to you, it's about the MMA stuff, which we love too. And but you know, we want to know the person rather than what they
that's
do.
Awesome. No, I really appreciate you guys having me, and you know, all God's timing. You know, they're like, man, you haven't shared this out. I was like, man, I go when God says go.
Yeah.
When you know,
is your church in Atlanta?
My church is in Marietta. Yes, in Atlanta.
Marietta.
Yeah, but soon, you know, you never know. I know God is. I know I'm gonna have one day. You know, so good. There's a big process though. You know, there's a long process, and
of course,
you know, I'm in it, man. Slowly with perseverance, we'll get there.
Yep. Right on. Well, thank you so much, Dhiego. Again, like just you're shining light, really, and you're reflecting that light that you know comes from the eternal source. So you know we thank you for that and sharing your story, and then also too like you know I know that when it's time to go and he says go, things open up, and I'm excited to see the journey that he takes you and your family through over the next, you know, year, 10 years, 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, thank you very much for having me, man. And, you know, always here for you guys. Mark's pleasure, man. It's amazing to see you. You're awesome, brother. Thank you for everything.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
And there's Dhiego Lima, everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Also, fantastic guest today on the show. And,
so good.
You know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, UFC veteran, fought in the MFC for a while too, as well with me.
Yes,
and
watched the fight actually.
Him and his brother and all of them came over to my house one time to watch the UFC when they were in the UFC. When they were in the MFC, it was really cool. So, awesome group of guys. And if you ever get out to the Atlanta area or you're in the Gwinnett area, that's where their gym is, Team Lima, ATT. And don't forget about our great sponsors at Crystal Glass, your clear choice for all your glass needs. Call 310 Glass or go to crystalglass.ca today. And our guest for next week, everybody tune in on Monday, is none other than Gerald Harris, UFC veteran Gerald Harris. So he'll be on our show next Monday. So tune in 5 p.m. Mountain, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific.
Well, thank you so much once again, Dhiego, for joining us. And again, great story. Follow him on all social media, of course, and see what happens next. But until next week, you know, that's Mark. He's over there. And I'm Jesse. This has been the Me and Jesse podcast. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good week. And happy 2025. Is this the second show of 2025? No.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, yes, we had a show.
Oh,
yeah, we had a few.
Yeah. I don't even know what year it is.
Listen, when you're busy like you, that's what happens.
That's what happens. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Me and Jesse podcast.
Thanks for watching the Me and Jesse podcast. Follow us at facebook.com/Me and Jesse.